Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm really glad you're here tonight. My name is Scott Harker, and I'm a certified gut health specialist. And I'm extremely excited because I'm joined tonight by some dear friends who've experienced a transformation in their lives firsthand, and as well as myself. And we're here to share with you tonight. Tonight, we have my wife, Jennifer. We have Mimi. Say hi, Mimi. We have Wayne Scholten.
Hey there.
And Tricia. So
Hello.
we're excited that you're here tonight, and we've got something really special that we want to share with you. And I'm going to take a moment and just show a slide up here for you guys to see if you're on tonight. And take a look at this slide and picture yourself in the middle here with you, and look around this wheel or the things that are on the side here. And ask yourself a question. Do I have any of these symptoms? We're here to talk about those tonight. And if you have any of those symptoms, one or two of those, I'd like you to put a one in the chat or put me. Maybe you can share it with us. But the other thing I'd like you to do, and I'm just going to pause for a minute, and I want you to take an opportunity to tag someone in your chat. If they have one of these issues, get your friends on here. We've got something transformational that we want to share with folks tonight. So get them on the line, call them, text them, have them get on Facebook or my YouTube channel, and so we can share that with them tonight. But let me ask you a question. If you look at this list, you have one or more of these issues like obesity, neuropathy, maybe you have chronic migraines, ED, fatty liver, high blood pressure, cholesterol, maybe your triglycerides are high, right? If you've got one or more of those issues, we would say that you are insulin resistant. That is at the center of all of these things. Now, when you see a doctor, most of the time, there are doctors that look at each and individual of one of those, right? But really, insulin resistance is at the center of those. But the first thing we need to understand is, if you don't know tonight, what insulin resistance is and what insulin is as well. So first, let's start with what insulin is. Insulin is a hormone that is produced by your pancreas that when we eat and it turns it into sugar, right? It releases a hormone that moves the sugar into the cell to feed the cell. But then when we become insulin resistant, basically our cells are ignoring our insulin. And what happens is when we eat, every time we eat, our sugar goes up and our insulin goes up. And we do that often, eat, and then maybe we have a snack and then we eat again, right? Then our cells become deaf to our insulin, and it can't basically, it ignores that insulin and doesn't let the sugar into the cell. And that's why we become tired. That's why we get brain fog, because our cells are actually starving. And so tonight we want to talk to you about what we've done to actually reduce our insulin resistance. We all have a story on here of how insulin resistance has impacted our lives, what it's done to us, and then what a protocol that we have used to reverse our insulin resistance. So it's life-changing. We're excited about it, and we wanted to share that with you tonight. So I want to start out with my friend Mimi. Mimi, if you don't mind with sharing with folks tonight what the protocol, what's it look like, the protocol that we use. Just tell us your story about insulin resistance and then kind of what you've done to reverse your insulin resistance.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. I'd love to. I heard about this protocol about 2.5, almost 3 years now. In April, it'll be 3 years. And at that time, I really was just struggling with a lot of things we think are just age related. I had a lot of joint pain. I had brain fog, and I was always tired. I needed a nap like every day after work. And just inflammation, just not feeling 100% all of the time. And I had a lot of those symptoms that you just mentioned, the inflammation, the pain in my joints, the brain fog, just always tired, extra belly fat, right? Um, and it was to the point where my sister said I should check it out because I just didn't look right. When you're in your when you're in your 60s and you almost look pregnant, it's not good. And so I was looking for some help in that area to help lose weight and to feel better. And I just was trying to do things on my own, but was struggling. And at the same time, my husband, he became type 2 diabetic. So he had high triglycerides and cholesterol and high blood pressure. And he also had struggles with fatigue and belly fat. So when we got a call from a good friend of ours, John, who said he was reversing his type 2 diabetes after he had been very, very sick and overweight for a couple of decades, right? So I was very intrigued and very open-minded. And this is what I found is that, yes, you can reverse your insulin resistance, and there's so many things linked to it. Why didn't I connect the dots all earlier? I don't know. But even as a nurse, you don't really look into metabolic health unless you're struggling or, with that kind of thing. I know they're all related, but I didn't understand how to reverse it. But yet this protocol jumps right into our lives. And I was able to lose 40 pounds in about 4.5 months. My neuropathy pain went away because I had that problem too, a little numbness and tingling in my feet. My joint pain went down to about, I'd say less than 10% of what it was. And I was just feeling more energized. I had less brain fog. I was alert and awake all day long at my computer desk job, where I was always struggling and crashing after lunch. My gut health, I had, chronic IBS symptoms all my life. So that was a winner right there too. I forgot to even mention that. But the fiber blend in this protocol is ideal, and it is science-backed. And I was thrilled that that could help me less bloating and less constipation, things like that. So yeah, this is my story. And at the same time, Ott was reversing his type 2 diabetes. He had normal lab values after 90 days. And so we just were blessed by this phone call we got from John. And I couldn't say enough about it. So I've been sharing it whenever I have a chance. And I'm happy to be on here with you guys, sharing my story. So that's it.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mimi. That's a great story, and folks, look at this picture, right, and the change that went on with Mimi, and so that's a great story. Mimi, you talked about being a nurse and talking about really don't understand, not really taught. I know in medical school they really don't teach this relationship necessarily between insulin resistance and between all these other diseases, right, that come along,
Right.
and the gut, right,
Yeah.
and and me being a gut health specialist with the gut, that's something I really focus up on about how the gut really impacts insulin resistance. When our guts are unhealthy, and we're going to talk about how that protocol a little bit, the fiber impacts that, but when the gut's unhealthy, right, and we get leaky gut, right, we get all these things inside of our bodies. We get these toxins that leak into our bloodstream that causes the inflammation, right? And our short chain fatty acids don't get produced. And therefore that even aids more into the insulin resistance. So there's a little door on our cell that needs to let that sugar in. It can't, right? And so gut health is so important in that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your story. That's awesome. Yep. All right. I'm going to move on now. Wayne, you've got a tremendous story about how the protocol has helped you, and just kind of talk to us a little bit about what your life looked before the protocol and after, and some of the things that you went through with insulin resistance.
Okay. Well, thanks, Scott, for having me on tonight. And it's truly a blessing to share this with anybody and everybody who's out there listening today. But I am a 2-time heart attack survivor. By the grace of God, I I had my first heart attack probably 10 years ago, and they put a stent in. And I really just, so if I knew then what I knew now, I probably would never had the second heart attack. But 3 years ago on Labor Day weekend, I had another heart attack. And that was much more severe. And like I said, by the grace of God and some wonderful surgeons in our community, I had a quadruple bypass surgery, and I survived that. And I am just, I didn't know why I was spared from all that, but I knew I have a new purpose in life today. This is to share this with others, and I think that's why I was spared from that heart attack. But my surgeon told me after we left, he said, Wayne, if you don't ever want to get your chest cracked open again like you did, he said, you will go to the gym 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day. And he says, hopefully you'll never have to see me again. And I honored that. And I still do. I still go to the gym 5 days a week. But that is really not where, I had no idea what insulin resistance was. I didn't know anything about it. I was going to the gym 30, I doing my workout, but I was tired. I'm 68 years old. It was hard to work out. And when you did work out, you went home with achy joints. You put ice on your joints for the night, and then tomorrow you go do the same thing all over again. And, I was just tired. I couldn't work out like I did. I couldn't lose any weight. Not that I was severely obese or trying to do it, but, then what happened was my wife and I, Sandy, saw someone at where she worked and hadn't seen that lady for a while, and she said, wow, what happened to you? And she had lost a ton of weight. And we were actually looking at that time for Sandy because Sandy was on a shot, which was not working. And she was sick 2 days a week and really not getting any help. And it was costing us $400 a month. And so we were looking. And Sandy had told us, you need to meet my daughter. Which was Amy VandenAkker. And so we did. We met with Amy, and the lights just came on automatically for both of us. Like we didn't know anything about insulin resistance. I studied a lot about it afterwards, but and for what I wanted to try it for Sandy, and I said, well, for what it costs us to do this, we could both be on it, and it'd be way cheaper than what you're spending every month. So we decided to both try it. And I thought, yeah, if I could lose some weight, that would be good. I was just totally amazed. The weight loss was great. I lost 35 pounds in 3 months, 3.5 months. That was great. You can see my before and after picture there. And that was great. But let me tell anybody and everybody listening to it, this isn't a weight loss program. It's a health program. And that is what I am just so excited about. I'm 68 years old, and I'm looking at quantity and quality of life at my age. And in that amount of time, I was able to lower my blood pressure medicine. I'm off my statins. My sleep apnea is gone. My acid reflux, I don't take any acid reflux medicine anymore. I feel 10 years younger. And as Mimi stated, joint pain, that was probably the first thing I noticed. Within a week, all of a sudden, my knees didn't hurt anymore after I worked out, and I didn't have to ice my knees anymore. And that was just a wonderful thing. And all the other benefits that come from it. I actually, one of the biggest surprises to me is I had to have my blood work done. I spent a couple of days in the hospital for cellulitis, and I had to get my blood work done and see my PCP. And when I went in to see him, well, I hadn't seen him since we started the protocol, and I'd lost 35 pounds. And he said, boy, Wayne, he said, where's the other half of you that isn't here? And I said, we started a new health protocol, an all natural health protocol. I said, I don't know what you really think of it, but it's doing miracles for Sandy and I. And I'm going to stay on it. And he said, you look great. And she said, well, let's look at your blood work. And we started going through my blood work, and he was just kind of amazed at all of it. And when we got to my kidney function, they've been watching my kidneys for 5 years because I was in stage 3 kidney failure. every year that was going down and getting a little worse and a little worse. And I couldn't be prescribed this drug or that drug because of my kidneys. And he said, Wayne, he said, this never happens. He says, your kidney function has reversed and is going the other way. And he said, I have never seen that. And he says, I don't care what you're doing. He said, just keep it up. And just a real quick side note for my wife, Sandy, she's had the same thing. We were both in stage 3 kidney function. She had her blood work done at the end of the year after 3 months or 3.5 months. And she actually went from a stage 3 to almost normal kidney function in 3 months. And her triglycerides went down 100 points in 3 months. And so to me, and the weight loss is great. Sandy lost a bunch of weight as well. And we all kind of look at this as, oh, it's a way to lose some weight. But for us, it's the health benefits. We're looking at, we're looking at our age. We just want, quality of life and quantity of life and quality of life. And I see so many, and that's where my heart just breaks for so many people that are struggling. And as they get older, as I am and older, they start having more and more issues, and they become convalescent and they can't get around like they do. And their quality of life goes down. I'm just so thankful that we met Amy and that we met the protocol, because it has literally given me a new hope for life and for a longer life. I really was at the point where I thought, I'm 68, just put me to pasture, let me, live out my days, and, hopefully there won't be a whole lot of pain and we could just kind of ride off into the sunset. But now I just have a new earning for life to share this with people. And 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I didn't think I'd see 75 years old. And now I could sense myself living to be, if God wills, 85 years old, and just sharing this program till the day I die.
Awesome. That's a great testimony, Wayne. You brought up a couple things that I just want to highlight out there for folks that are watching. One is you were talking about it being age, right? A lot of times we're told by our healthcare professionals or whatever, and we're told that, hey, it's just about getting older. Well, Wayne, I've met you, got to spend some time with you. It's not, man. You're looking great, right? It's not just about getting older, right? And for all of us right? Because this protocol helps us heal from the inside. And Wayne, you said another thing. It says, well, it's not just about weight. It's about getting healthy, right? And so when our bodies start to heal on the inside, our gut starts to heal. We start to lower that blood sugar, right? And it goes to the right place, our cells, instead of our joints and our liver and other places, right, where it's stored as either inflammation or fat. We start to heal, and we're able to start to lose that weight. So weight becomes that secondary thing of that healing that happens inside. And so that's really important, Wayne, that you brought that up to let folks understand that when we start to become insulin sensitive, right, that we start to heal from the inside out.
Yeah.
All right. Let's transition now to Amy. Amy, this is the first time I've got to do a live with you. And I'm excited. I have not heard your story. So I'm so excited to hear your story about insulin resistance, what you were dealing with, what it looked like before, what's it look like after for you. Just share your story for a few minutes with us.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me on here. As you can tell in my pictures, the big one was in 2019, and right before that picture was taken, I was diagnosed with several autoimmune diseases, Sjogren's and fibromyalgia. And as I was a lot younger, I have always struggled with constant migraines. And so kind of put all that together. Now that I know what I know, I probably had insulin resistance way when I was in my 20s. That's how long I've been dealing with the migraines. But in 2019 is when I was officially diagnosed with these autoimmune diseases. And my biggest things were lack of energy. I had gained a lot of weight, and I also had a lot of joint pain. I do an in-home daycare, and there was days that I couldn't even get out of bed because the joint pain was so awful. And at the beginning of finding out my diagnosis, I did try some medications. I did try some injections in my hips, because that's where my joint pain really is in my hips, and nothing was helping. And the migraines were still right there at the top. So in about 2023 is when my daughter-in-law, who is John Cox's daughter, she just mentioned it. She goes, "We've been on this protocol. I think it would help you." And I didn't even think twice. I just jumped right in, got on it, and I immediately, in the first couple of weeks, noticed my energy level just skyrocketing. I mean, I was keeping up with those little ones. I was keeping up with my grandbabies. I just felt great. And then as I was on the protocol, my joint pain was going away. And I wasn't suffering the flare-ups of leaving me in bed and having to call that daycare is closed because I couldn't get out of bed. All of that was just slowly diminishing, and I was just ecstatic. And of course, I lost my weight. Unfortunately, I look different now because the fibromyalgia actually has attacked my hair to a point where it's just a fiery needle feeling. And that's one thing that hasn't really curbed yet, but I'm hoping that it will. It just may take longer. I'm just praying that with everything else going away, that this will happen too. But I ended up just shaving my head because it just feels a lot better this short. So I do get the questions a lot about why I am shaved, but that is the biggest thing that I was just so overwhelmed at how this protocol has helped in my autoimmune. And I pray that people can hear my story that are also dealing with autoimmunes, because I don't think, again, doctors try to put you on medications or you're trying this and that and not finding something that gets to the root of your symptoms, of what you are struggling with. And that has been my mission since I started this and had such good results. Granted, I don't have my hair anymore. I'm fine. I'm okay with it. I feel stronger, and it's just part of my life now. And this is just the way I look. And I am just, again, my mission is to hopefully get out to those that have autoimmune diseases that haven't been told that the underlining could be the insulin resistance. So that is my story in a nutshell.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so powerful, Amy. Thank you. And you look great. That is such a wonderful story, and how the protocol is allowing you to just not feel that pain anymore. Because I know that, even though you have still some symptoms of your fibromyalgia, the stiff joints and things like that with fibromyalgia create that in it. So they're starting to come, get better, and your inflammation's going down. And now you're able to spend time with your grandbabies. Yeah, go ahead. Say, yeah.
I was going to say, I'm just living my life now. I feel like I did when I was in my 20s. I mean, my migraines are completely gone. And I was on medications to help prevent them. And then I had a whole slew as a backup when I get a bad one, so I didn't have to go to the ER. And that has also been reversed by this protocol.
Yeah. Jennifer knows that. She'll probably share that here in a minute with her testimony as well. We've seen how it impacts people with the migraines, right? And just for people that's just joining us, we're and maybe be joining us now or watching this replay and joined in the middle of it. We're talking about insulin resistance and how that impacts our bodies, right? And we're sharing tonight a protocol that we've all used and experienced. It's helped us overcome that insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is tied to many things like belly fat, high triglycerides, high blood pressure, migraines, inflammation, a lot of all the things that you can think about that when we're being told, hey, well, that's just part of getting older, right? Type 2 diabetes, blood sugar, right? All these different things. And they're all tied together because it impacts our gut and the free floating blood sugar, or that sugar that's in our bloodstream. And if we can't get that out, it goes in and causes us to store fat, right? And causes inflammation. So if you've got an itis tonight, like, different skin conditions or anything like that, make certain you listen to the end about this protocol, and it helps us. All right. Tricia, I have not heard your story either. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm excited to hear your story about what the protocol has done for you. Talk to us about some of the symptoms that you were having before and after the protocol and what it's done for you.
Sure. Thank you very much, Scott, for having me. Yeah, you might want to buckle in for my story. It's kind of a crazy one, but I'll try to keep it as brief as possible.
No, we got time.
So like all my friends on the live tonight, I've suffered with all the things that they've said and then some. We've all unfortunately have this common thing that most Americans have, and that's insulin resistance. And so a little bit about me. My story actually began when I was really little. I've always had different health issues, never knowing exactly what was going on, but I always had something going on. Headaches as a kid, and I was always overweight. I have a sister and two brothers that were athletic and always active. And, I was the person on the sidelines always cheering them on. So, I've been on every diet that you can imagine. And ever since I was little, I can remember being on Dexatrim and Slim Fast in my early teens. And so weight has always been an issue for me. And being Italian, our favorite food is, pastas and breads. And, that's my love language. So that did not help things at all. But I started having major issues, I guess, my junior year of high school. I woke up one morning with a growth on my neck, had to have a really fast surgery to remove that because it was the size and shape of a pear and it was growing at my windpipe. So I had to get that out. And so I don't have feeling in my neck unless you strangle me, then I feel it. But so then a couple years later, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. So I am a now 2-time cancer survivor. I have asthma, type 2 diabetes, colitis, the migraines, everything, infertility, everything that you can imagine. I had it or have had it or just been a mess. So it all, again, going to several different doctors, they all, would tell me, oh, Tricia, you just need to lose some weight and exercise. And that was the remedy for everything. And like I said, I've been on every single diet known to man. I mean, if you've heard it on the TV, I've done it. And then I've even made up some diets, I always say, which is not very good either, especially one called Eat Like a Bear. And when you have colitis, that's really bad because it's only vegetables. So I spent a few months in the bathroom with not seeing my husband because I was always so sick. But anyways, just been a complete mess my whole life. Well, after trying every diet and after talking with doctors and stuff, they told me I would feel better if I just lost weight. And so out of desperation, I started doing a medical weight loss program. And it was recommended by a friend who is an RN. So I completely trusted her, researched the program. It involved supplements and vitamins and all natural things. It was doctor monitored. So I felt safe as a type 2 diabetic. And my husband even went with me for the consultation. So he got to hear everything, what it involved and all of that. It was very, very expensive. So I thought I have to make this work because of the cost, itself. So so we had gone on a cruise and we came back the following week, and that's when I started this program. And within the first couple of days, I just wasn't feeling right. And this program, you had to check in on an app and kind of put in your weight every day and all that. And I would just message them and say, hey, I'm not feeling well. I'm not sure what's going on. I can't really eat or drink. And, every response was, oh, that's normal. That's your body detoxing. Just keep going. It's normal. Don't worry. And so every day I would text them, I still don't feel very well. And, they just continued with the same thing. Well, by day 6, I had met some friends for coffee, and I walked into the coffee shop and they looked at me and they're like, Tricia, you do not look good. And I'm like, gee, thanks. And they said, no, you're just not looking good. And I'm like, well, I don't feel very well. And then I saw my sister later in the day and she said the same thing. Are you okay? You don't look very good. And I'm like, no, I don't feel well. So long story short, well, it's long, but I ended up going to a store and could not remember how I got there, didn't know where I was, anything like that. I called my husband. He came, picked me up, and drove me straight to urgent care. And when I got into urgent care, they're like, you don't look very good. I'm like, I know. That's why I'm here. And so they started running tests, and I just figured I was dehydrated. They were just going to give me a couple IVs and I'd be on my way, and, nothing else. Well, the doctor came in and he grabbed his little rolling chair and he wheeled right up to me and he's like, you're in really bad shape. And I said, I know, that's why I'm here. I'm trying to lose weight. And he's like, no, that's not what I mean. And I said, well, what's going on? And he looked over at my husband and he looked back at me and he said, if he would not have brought you in when he did, you would be dead in 2 hours. And I said, I'm sorry, what? And he said, you are very lucky. If you were not brought in, you would be dead in 2 hours. And I said, are you telling me I have 2 hours to live? And he said, yeah, pretty much.
Oh, my.
So what had happened, my body was full of acid. All of my organs were shutting down. In fact, they were trying to feed off each other to get some nourishment because I was in ketoacidosis. But what the next stage is severe, but I was in the very worst stage, which is starvation ketoacidosis. And so that's why I literally only had a couple of hours to live. So they couldn't treat me there. I mean, they gave me IVs and some medications to get me trying to get my organs back going again. So I had to get transported to the hospital via ambulance. And I said, no, my husband can drive me. And they're like, no, you don't understand how unstable you are. And so by the time I got to the hospital, it really hit me. Here I am trying to do the right thing. It was supposed to be safe for diabetics, and I had researched it and everything. And so, that's when it all hit me and all of that. So I had a very compassionate and sympathetic doctor that was very wonderful for me. And so basically what had happened, the program, they never recorded I was diabetic, even though they knew that. So the amounts of the supplements and all of that were completely wrong for me. So once I was finally released from the hospital, I had to reteach myself how to eat because that time I put something in my mouth, my body would reject it. So that was 2 long weeks of not being able to eat and just trying to get back into a somewhat normal routine. But not only the physical, but the emotional, the mental was very hard for me to deal with. So that was a big struggle. So at that point, I decided I will never do another diet in my life. It's not worth it. And I just told myself, God wants me fat. I'm just going to have to live with it. Well, then it started, my health was really starting to take a downward spiral, excuse me. And I've always suffered from migraines, but the migraines I was starting to get more consistently and, just not feeling good, had no energy. I worked from home, so I'm blessed by that. So when I didn't feel good, I could lay down. Just everything hurt. I couldn't think, had no motivation, nothing wanting to do anything. And so I would go to the doctor and they're like, oh, your numbers are fine. You're fine. And I'm like, it's not. I'm not fine. You know, I can't get out of bed. And well, if you exercise and lose weight, you know, that was the reasoning for everything. And I said, I can't get out of bed. How do you expect me to exercise? And so it got to the point I was getting migraines every single day. And for the people that don't know what migraines are, boy, you sure are lucky because they are horrible. I mean, I would have to have a bucket next to me, you know, no clothes on because they were too heavy, no lights, no noise, no air movement, nothing. You know, my husband would hold my hair back and it just horrible. And I just remember laying in bed praying to God, like, please, I'm only 50 years old. This can't be my life. And in fact, that picture, my before picture, is my 50th birthday party. And I actually was bigger after that. And I started the protocol exactly 1 year later, um, of April 7th, actually, of 2025. And as soon as I started the protocol, man, my life changed completely. Within a few days, I was walking around, I had energy. My husband came home from work and he's like, what'd you do today? And I'm like, I didn't take a nap. And he was so excited for that because I was taking 2, 3 naps a day and then going to bed and sleeping the whole night through. And he really started noticing. And so as a diabetic, I had to go to the doctor every 3 months. And so I was only on the protocol for a month when I had my next appointment. And I had lost 10 pounds right away. And my A1C was at 8.1 and it was down to 7.2. So my doctor was ecstatic. My cholesterol was in the normal range and all of that. And so she's like, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. And, you know, for me, the weight is great. I've lost 40, maybe even 50 pounds. I don't even know because I don't care about that, honestly. I mean, I know it's a good measure, but I just care about how I feel. And that's what makes this protocol so amazing because I have my life back. I'm not just existing like I was before. I'm actually living my life and I get to do it with the best people on the planet. I mean, all of you guys are so amazing. This company is amazing and I can go on, but it truly has completely changed my life. I've got family members on it and friends on it and their lives have all changed too. And yeah, I think God saved me to share this message with others too. And you know, just like everybody else has said, we have a purpose now and we need to share it and to spread the word. So yeah, my life is different. I couldn't be happier. Haven't had a migraine in over or almost a year. So that right there is well worth it to me. So yeah.
Well, what an awesome story, Tricia. That's great. I hadn't heard your story before, and that's wonderful. Your full story, yeah. So I'm going to click over in just to show us all here, but and we'll come back to some slides in a little bit. One of the things I wanted to you mentioned something that triggered something, and you didn't use the exact words, but it made me think about willpower. And you know, how many times have we been told, myself included, right? When we're thinking about eating or things like that, getting healthy, it's like you just need more willpower, right? Well,
Get out of bed.
yeah,
Just do this. Just do that.
right, exactly. And so I just want to give a little word of encouragement for folks, you know, because that'll drive depression and different things like that on, you know, if you're listening to this live tonight, right? Let me just say there's hope, right? And I want to explain a little bit about what's really going on in your body. Because it's really this physical thing that happens inside your body, and especially around your gut. When our guts are unhealthy, okay, we get into this thing called dysbiosis, meaning that there's more bad bacteria than there is good bacteria in your body. And it communicates up to your vagus nerve, or through your vagus nerve, up to your brain and says, I am starving, or this is what I need, right? And it's really sending false signals. And so folks, if you're on here tonight, right, that's a signal. and it's saying something's going on, right? So don't be depressed saying, "Oh, it's just all in my head." Well, there's something going on up there because your body, your gut's telling you that, right? And I could do a whole lesson on your second brain and your gut. We haven't got time for that tonight, but I just want to let you know, because there's been times when I was struggling myself, going, people would say, "Hey, you just need more willpower to lose that weight," and I just couldn't find it in myself, right? And so this protocol, it isn't a Band-Aid, but what it does is it really starts to help you heal so that you don't feel those type of things. And then also around our emotions. And Jennifer, I'm going to lead into that with you just a second, as she's going to share her testimony. But it's really important because not only is our immune system inside of 70% or of our immune system is tied to our gut, but then it's also 90% of our serotonin comes from our gut, right? And that's our happy hormone, if you will. And that has a big impact. So if our gut is not healthy, right, we're going to feel bad. So I'm going to take a minute, and Jennifer and I are going to share quickly our testimony. I'm going to let her start out. I've been on here a bunch of times and shared my testimony many times with people. We're not going to show pictures here tonight, but I'm going to let you, Jennifer, kind of talk about what the protocol has meant to you. Slide over here, make sure you get up the camera and the mic.
Yes, make sure
Yeah,
I'm in there.
yeah, that's right.
Being on camera.
Yeah, you do a good job.
Okay, thanks.
But I want you to share your testimony about what the protocol's done for you, and then I'll chime in a little bit about what it's done for me and us a little bit as well.
Okay, well, I like all of my friends here. Knowing what I know now, I can look back over my life of almost 48 years and go, dang, I was insulin resistant probably before I was a teenager. And because I was diagnosed with migraines, I remember having my first migraine at 9 years old. I wasn't diagnosed until I was 13, because between 9 and 13, my parents divorced. And so doctors were saying, oh, it's just a way for her to get attention and blah, blah, blah. And so I struggled with, debilitating migraines all through high school. Of course, you throw in puberty and adolescence and all that other stuff that you go through. You just kind of put one foot in front of the other and just kind of muddle your way through. And in my early 20s, I was, so that led me to, in my teens, I started taking an anti-anxiety medicine and antidepressant medicine, and was on that for over 30 years. And in my early 20s, I started having IBS with constipation. Scott and I were dating, and I can remember a specific evening where we went out to eat, and I had, I think, maybe 3 bites of my meal, and I immediately bloated up. I was in pain, and I mean, we had to call it quits. I was like, you got to take me home. I can't function. I'm like in the car unbuttoning my pants because it was just, I was just blowing up. And one, that's embarrassing too. I'm dating this guy. Like, this is, thankfully he's stuck with me through all this craziness that is my life. But so I go to the doctor. I go to an internist, right, who's supposed to know like the ins and outs and all the stuff. And he's like, well, you just need more fiber in your diet. And I'm like, okay, well, how do I get fiber? Like, there's vegetables and different things like that, but like, how do I get more fiber? So I started taking fiber supplements. I was taking a fiber shake in the morning. I was taking fiber pills before every time I would eat, and a fiber supplement before bed. And that was just to be able to go maybe once every other day. So you can imagine I was bloated, I was uncomfortable, and just the spiral of, and so, we muddled through, having children, that there would be good times, there would be bad times, things would, we would go on this diet or that diet and things would improve or go, one way or the other. But I just kind of allotted myself that this was just the struggles that I was going to have in my life. And then in 24, fall of 25, fall of 24, sorry. I started having, there was, all the weight gain, all the things of this wonderful time frame in my life of perimenopause. all of those wonderful things happening. I was having neuropathy, and I worked in the dental field for over 25 years. So I just thought, oh, it's just from being in a static position, working with my hands. It's just carpal tunnel or whatever. So go to chiropractors, try to do physical therapy. And it would help a little bit, but nothing, and nothing that took it completely away. And I have the big three. I have high blood pressure, stroke, and diabetes on both sides of my family. My dad's a type 2, my brother's a type 1. My mom's parents both passed away from stroke complications. My mom died of congestive heart failure. And so when I would go to the doctor, I was pre-everything. Like I was just on that bubble of pre-everything. And so I was like, all right, we got to do something. And in the entering time with this as well, he was studying to learn about the gut and what role that has. And so I was like, okay, I got to do something. All right, honey, here you go. Here's my problems. Here's this, and this. Find something to fix me. And because he's an engineer, and so he likes to find root cause and figure out like, all right, this is the root cause and this is what we need to do to fix these different things. And we've been on supplements, pills, shakes, different things, different diets. Some of them tasted fine, some of them not so great. And I started checking my fasting blood sugars, and I was solidly in the pre-diabetic range. My A1C was, I think it was 9.2 or something like that. And I was like, okay, something has to happen. Like, I don't want to be on medicine. I don't want to do that because I see I've taken care of my dad, my mom, grandparents. I know what that does to you. Even if you control it, I know what that long-term effect is when you get 70, 80 years of age. And I was scared to death that was going to be my children taking care of me or Scott taking care of me. And so I was like, okay, find me something. Like, we got to do something. And so our dear friend Alan reached out to Scott and introduced this protocol to him. And within the first 2 weeks, my fasting blood sugars went from 130, 140 into the 90s. Energy was through the roof. I hadn't had a migraine, at that point I hadn't had a migraine in, several weeks. And the biggest thing for me was here last summer, I was like, all right, if what he's saying is truly true, and not that I doubted it, but I had, over the years of being on the antidepressant, anti-anxiety med, I'm just going to gut through this. I'm just going to choose to be happy. I'm going to choose to get out of bed. I'm going to choose joy. I'm going to choose, with that willpower thing. And you just can't. I mean, there's just days when you just physically cannot do it, no matter how much you are telling yourself, And so I was like, all right, what he's saying is true. I'm going to just see. I'm going to, and before, when I had, been sick or had done something where I'd forgotten my medicine, within 24 hours, I was feeling the effects of not having that medicine. Within 36 to 48 hours, he was saying, did you forget to take your medicine? Do we need to get your pills refilled? Like, well, is there something I can help you with? Trying to be very nice and compassionate. And that would just tick me off. I was mad that I needed that, And so this last summer in June, I decided I was going to you have to know something about me. When I decide to do something, I don't necessarily do it the correct way. I kind of go full bore, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna kind of wean off of this stuff that I had been on for over 30 years. I'm gonna give myself a week. I'll just take it like every other day, and then I'll just stop. Don't recommend that at all. That was not the right way to do that. But after 2 weeks, so I kind of weaned off and I'd stopped for a week, I point blank asked him, I'm like, so how do you think I'm doing? And he's like, and any men out there, when your lady comes to you and goes, how am I doing? That's a loaded question. That's not really fair, but we've been married for over 20 plus years at that point. So I was like, you know what?
I did go through a decision tree in my head very quickly.
Like how long I've been doing, because he was always the first one that after I would notice, he was always the first one that could tell like I wasn't taking my medicine. And he tried it very carefully. He was like, well, you seem, X, Y, Z, but and I said, well, here's what I've done. I've stopped my medicine. And he's like, what do you mean you stopped it? I'm like, well, I weaned off for a week and then I just stopped taking it. And he's like, well, that's not the right way. I'm like, I know, but I wanted to see if what you're saying about all of this being produced in my gut, now that I've been on this protocol, if I don't, if the rubber really hits the road, so to speak. And I have been off of my antidepressant, anti-anxiety meds since last summer. And I don't have any of the dark, spiraling down, really bad feelings that I had. Now, honest, complete transparency, there are days when I still don't feel like, and that's, I'm working through those things. This protocol is helping me. I can trace it back to when I haven't eaten super great, or I've done something that I maybe shouldn't, but that's where this protocol is super easy and it's super forgiving. You just do the next right thing the next day and you keep moving forward. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. I'm going to do my testimony really, really fast because we're going, no, this is great. I think it's important for people to hear what it's done. We've had all kinds of things tonight, right? Weight loss, heart problems, autoimmune
I lost 40
diseases.
pounds too, but again, that's kind of a sidebar.
So and for me, I won't go in details a lot, but I feel a lot better. I've lost 45 pounds. I lost 42 pounds in 16 weeks. My psoriasis is starting to clear up. Some other time on a live, I'll share about my ulcerative colitis, and this is why I got into this business and got into helping people with gut health and metabolic health. But then I put this on top, and wow, it's just like supercharged, and my energy's out the top, right?
Yes.
So I've always been a high energy person, but it just makes me feel so good. But anyway, what we want to share with you, and I'm going to just get right into it a little bit, is sharing about this is a protocol. We've been using the term protocol all night, right? And really what it is we use a couple tools. And I'm going to show some slides here, and a few of us are going to share about it, but we use a couple tools. One's called a yerba mate extract, and I'm just going to bring it up here on the screen if I can get my screen to work. I've had some technical issues, but we're going to figure it out here now. And that didn't do it. No, that's not it at all. Excuse me. There we go. This is going to be it. And we're going to roll right on to the next slide. There we go. All right. So we use a couple tools, and we're going to explain the two tools that we use. And then we're going to share how we use them. So first of all, we use an yerba mate extract. This is we've got some different, I'm going to go over to the camera. It's backwards for me. But we use this, and this is a product that we use, that we drink and mix in a bottle that looks a lot like this right here. It helps support our well-being, right? It supports a healthy cognitive process and helps us think better. Promotes satiety. I can't say that word very well, but it makes us feel full. Is probably a better way to do that, right? You don't get hangry, and supports weight management efforts. And we use this a couple times during the day, and we drink it to be able to help us get through a period of where we do time-based eating, aka fasting. And I like to call it time-based eating because what we really don't stress is really about how much you eat. It's about when you eat and giving your body some time to rest. And Wayne's going to go over here in a minute of how we use that. But this is also, and it's not a GLP-1. You see that term up on this slide here. It's not a GLP-1, but it helps your body produce your natural GLP-1, 67% more using this than what you would normally do. And then it basically just helps also with your weight, your energy, and helps you get to a point where you can stay in that fasting mode where you're not eating in the morning, right? And so it's really important for our body to have this point of where we get into a rest and to heal. So we also use another tool called fiber, called balance. And Mimi, I'm going to let you explain what balance does for us and explain. And then Wayne's going to go into how we use it. So go ahead, Mimi.
Yeah. So, thanks. Yeah, this is a game changer for me since I also had IBS symptoms all my life and just needed help in that area. It's a patented blend of 7 diverse forms of fiber. I don't know anything on the market that comes even close to this. This is not your Metamucil or your Benefiber. This has multiple strategically chosen fiber, plant fibers, all natural with some extra naturally occurring vitamins, minerals in there that help support a healthy gut. And and helps basically in many different ways, not just to feed your microbiome, which is huge. We'll get into that in a second, but it will control your satiety, so you keeps you fuller longer. It curves that blood sugar and insulin spike that we talk about that produces insulin resistance, so that keeps you at a healthier level, a more healing level, without the spiking of the blood sugar. So for diabetics, it's key. It works, strategically in that area and for blood lipids. So it'll control the cholesterol, the triglycerides, and even help raise your HDL. I've never seen anything on the market that comes close to this. When you know that statins are the #1 sold medication out there, and there are so many others that that we're taking because of the symptoms of insulin resistance. This is a game changer and can help people, and we've seen it help people get off their medications. Of course, we encourage people to monitor their signs, symptoms, and work with their doctors. But that's why we see type 2 diabetics reversing and getting off their medications. There's so many different testimonies for that. So it helps to curve that spike, bring down your lipid panel to a healthy level. It helps you stay satisfied. It feeds your microbiome because 5 out of the 7 fibers in this diverse blend will actually feed the gut healthy fibers that produce those short chain fatty acids, right? So healing your gut is key to metabolic health and brain health and your immune system. I've learned so much just by investigating how this works and why it is so effective. And I think I've learned more in the last 2 years than my whole 30-year, uh, nursing career. And it's fun to learn when you know that you can help people. So I've read the books, Dr. Ben Bickman and a fiber specialist, and just listening to you, Scott, you're an inspiration to me. And hearing the stories of people with severe problems and autoimmune diseases and inflammatory issues, seeing some great changes and results because it's all connected. The microbiome is so connected to autoimmune diseases, inflammation around the body, that leaky gut causing all kinds of symptoms, and fatty liver to heart disease. And so the fiber I'm thrilled with. It's helped me stay consistent and helped me curb my appetite between meals too.
Yeah, thank you, Mimi.
Yep.
So Wayne, why don't you tell us how you use it, about how easy it is to use it, if you could share that with us.
Okay, we're kind of going to run out of time here, so we'll make this really quick. But yeah, this is I know Jennifer's mentioned it, others have mentioned it. This is absolutely the easiest health protocol I've ever heard of and ever seen. It can fit into anybody's lifestyle, anybody's diet. So what we normally do is we want to have a 16-hour fast or time-based eating. So we want to have our time for our bodies to live off of the fat instead of off of all the sugars. So for me, what I do is the first thing I do in the morning is when I get up is I'll mix up one of these Unimates that Scott was talking about, and they're delicious. Put some ice in it. I like mine ice cold. Some people like it hot, some like it cold. And I start sipping on that right away in the morning. I skip breakfast, and I'll start sipping on that in the morning. And I'll get to work, and I'll be sipping on it at work, and I'll have my cup of coffee there, and I'll have my water there. And we just don't eat. And that's part of it is because of helping us naturally raise our GLP-1 levels. We just aren't hungry. And at first couple of weeks, you think, oh, yeah, you are. But pretty soon you don't even think of eating. I mean, you're just not hungry. And that will do that up till about noon. Some people will have a lunch. We'll have a late lunch. What we suggest you break that fast with a high protein. Maybe you have breakfast for lunch. There's nothing better than eggs and bacon or something like that to eat, at lunchtime. That'll also, when you have the Unimate, sipping on the Unimate in the morning, that just adds fuel to the fire of your fat burning and keeps it going. And you get to lunchtime, you'll have lunch. And then we'll start sipping on a second Unimate in the afternoon. We skip our snacking. We don't snack. And we get out through the end of the day. We'll just sip on our Unimates by having lunch. Some people skip lunch. I quite often will go 24 hours without eating. Just eat one meal a day because you're just not hungry. And it's just truly amazing. But then when we do get to our evening meal, our largest meal, then we take the balance that Mimi was talking about. We mix that up. We guzzle that down just before we eat. It helps coat our stomachs, and it helps encapsulate all the glucose and the carbs that are in our body so they release slower. And it's all about the insulin spikes. We try to keep our insulin spikes down, and the balance really helps for that. Then after we get done with our meal at night, we start our time-based eating again. We start fasting. So we try to go as much as 16, 18 hours. The longer you can go, the easier it is for your body to live off of the fat. You're eating your love handles for breakfast. That's what we're doing. So it's just super. It can fit into anybody's schedule, and it doesn't have to be skip breakfast. Maybe some people will skip dinner at night. If someone needs their breakfast and you want to have lunch, they'll maybe fast in the afternoon, until morning. So this whole program is it's so easy to do, and you can tailor it to your own needs. And it's just a wonderful way to get healthy and watch the pounds just fall off. It's the only program I've ever known that the only side effect is you lose weight. All the other, we all get prescribed pills and pills and pills, and all that does is just doesn't cure us. It just maintains us. And when you watch TV and you watch the commercials on TV for these medications and the side effect of this side effect, that side effect, and there's a whole list of side effects. The only side effect to our protocol is we lose weight. And I think that's a pretty awesome thing.
Yes.
It is awesome. Yeah, and it's so easy to take with you. Well, let me share a little bit, a few more things. This is a protocol, and we're going to talk to you really quickly about how you get it, and just a couple things that are really, really more that's important about it, right? First of all, tonight, if you are interested in this protocol and you want to get it, and one of these folks, you're friends with them, reach out to these folks on here. They would love to share it with you. This is a product that you can't get really anywhere else. If you do see it out there, you got to be careful. It could be a fake. It could be bought by somebody and then stored on shelves and it not be fresh. So when you get it from us, right, you get it at our pricing as well. But there's 5 patents on this product that make certain that no one else is making this like this, and we're ensuring its purity. The other thing is it's in the physician's desk reference. I want to make sure we cover that tonight. And what that means is because it's a nutraceutical, your doctors can look this up, and you can take this in and show them the doctors. They'll look in their physician's desk reference, or go to pdr.net, look up Unimate, or you look up Balance. It's there. There's over 20 plus clinical studies done on it. It's safe and natural, and there's also a guarantee on this product. And this is a really, really important thing. The company stands behind this. Use this for 90 days using the protocol. Give it a good 90-day try. If it doesn't work for you, the company will refund all your money back, right? And we consider it cost neutral. And the reason we consider it cost neutral is it's only about $5.30 a day. And what that means is that when you start the protocol, you're going to start time-based eating. You're going to eat less. You're not going to have those expensive coffees in the morning or different things like that. You're going to cut out a meal in a day. Your snacks are going to go down. For us, I'm kind of a budget freak. I know what we spend, and we actually save money using this inside of our home, right? So,
you may, a teenage son,
it eats a lot. Exactly. And so it may look and say, well, $159 a month for a subscription is a lot, but really for what it cost, what you save in your expenses
Medicine.
and your medicine, and then also just what it does for your life. Think about it. If you could change your life for $5.30 a day, would you do that? And that's in 60 plus countries. So we wanted to share that with you. Tonight, if you again, I want to make certain that if you know one of these guys on this screen tonight, and you're interested in it, reach out to them, tag them on Facebook. They would love to share it with you. Guys, if I got anything else, if I missed anything?
Did great.
All right. Well, tonight was about showing that your symptoms are not random and it's not just aging. Those things that we talk about are signals. Your body was designed by God to heal, and it was designed to function in balance, but when the center is off, everything feels off. And the good news is that you can heal. You don't have to stay stuck, folks. You don't have to manage just those symptoms forever. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to accept fatigue, brain fog, or inflammation as the new normal, right? When you address the root cause that we've been talking about tonight, when you can calm inflammation, support your gut, and stabilize your blood sugar, you can begin to heal and begin to do what you were created to do, right? You have a purpose. If something resonated with you tonight, reach out to one of these folks. We'd love to help you. Thank you so much for joining. Folks, thank you so much for joining on the live, sharing your stories. It's so inspirational. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Scott.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.